righty. I have no idea what day it is. It is 6:30 PM on Monday, March 5th, 2018. I call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order. Start with our usual three announcements. First, this meeting is being recorded by Cape Ann TV Access Corporation for future broadcasts. The meeting is being filmed by volunteers from Cape Ann TV. The meeting is being taped by town official note-taker Gail Hunter for accuracy in minutes. Anyone else who is recording the meeting is asked to notify the chair at this time, and all members of the board and people in the audience are asked to turn off or silence their cell phones at this time. I will omit item 0 on the agenda, since I believe you are both here for the Festival at Sea. Okay, so moving straight into the consent agenda, I'm going to pull out the Board of Selectmen minutes from the consent agenda because Tom Kehoe is not here tonight, and I want him here when we approve those. So remaining in the consent agenda is the Manchester Community Center request to put up a sandwich board on Town Common to promote their annual townwide cleanup and annual golf and tennis class fundraiser, and a one-day liquor license application from Cape Ann Chamber of Commerce for the 2018 Festival by the Sea. Since you folks are here, the paperwork, as I understand it, is all in order, and it's basically the same format as last year.
Basically, exactly the same format.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mike, you need that? Yep, please.
Michael Storella, 119 Pine Street. It's the same format as it's been for the last 5-6 years. You know, it closes down, starts around 9, ends around 6 p.m. You know, we'll probably have 120 booths, and we put music in, you know, the bandstand and in front of Town Hall. And we do have a one-day liquor license. We do want to ask for a little change on that, which is we actually build a little corral where the people sit and consume. We'd like to change that where we don't have to build a corral, but we don't even remember where the corral actually started. When we maybe when we first applied for it about 6 or 7 years ago, it seemed like a good idea. We will still do tables and chairs. We actually have, and we put it over where the food is, and you know, we clearly would put signs up where you purchase. Basically, it's mostly just beer, and that, you know, you need to consume this in the vicinity in Masco area.
So the corral is actually state law,
Oh, it is?
Yeah,
Okay, so we didn't know that.
not optional.
Okay.
that's not an option.
State
It's
law.
state law.
Okay. So we didn't know where it came from, so
Yeah.
now we do.
Yep.
So I guess we can't change that.
Nope.
So other than that, everything's exactly the same.
Okay. Any folks got any questions on that or other things on the consent agenda?
What's the date?
August 4th. August 4th with the rain date for the 5th on the Sunday.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
You got a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You're done.
You're good. Can't wait. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so item 2 is just correspondence. We have a letter from Watchtower regarding canvassing and solicitation permits may not be applied to their public ministry. We have a letter from Maya giving a notice of a dividend of $1,693. We don't have to approve that, do we?
No.
No. Notice from the Massachusetts Department of Telecommunications and Cable regarding a public hearing to be held on Wednesday, March 28th, 2018. This is in regard to the basic cable rates. I don't know if anybody wants to go to that, but that's what it is. A letter from Mass DOT giving notice of Manchester's Chapter 90 apportionment for fiscal year 2019 is $141,826. And a letter from David and Michelle Byers supporting the DPW director. And that's all there is in correspondence. So now we move into a final review of the annual town meeting warrant, which is item number 3 on our agenda, and we have the current warrant before us. We've gone over most of this last Monday. Tom Kehoe has asked that he wants to be present when we have a discussion regarding what the board position might be on Articles 16, 17, and 18. And so I'm going to defer discussion on that unless anybody has any procedural items that they want to discuss on those 3.
And is our next meeting on the 26th?
Nine-
No, the 19th.
Yeah,
The
the 19th.
So is that,
I'll unfortunately not be here.
And that'll be post-printing
Printing.
of the FinCom report.
oh, right.
So it'll state, you'll make your recommendation.
On
to the
town
Town
meeting
meeting
floor.
floor.
And Arthur, you're not here on the 19th? You can't be here on the
I'm not here on the
19th?
19th, but I will be here for that Wednesday. I'm back the 20th.
Okay. No, what I was gonna say is the planning board's hearing is the 26th of March, correct?
Yes.
And do we meet that night, or no? No, we meet the
That's
19th.
not a scheduled meeting.
No, no, okay, I was just trying,
Currently.
because I had, in our last meeting, had made the comment that I did the listening sessions, and we've had roundtable conversation. I'm thinking I'd like to go to the planning board meeting to see what
When's the
that
plan-
perspective is.
When's the planning board
The
meeting?
26th of March,
26th.
before I
What time's the planning board meet?
don't know,
I think it's
probably
at 7
7, I
o'clock.
haven't seen the posting yet.
Uh,
I'm just saying that I know Tom wants to wait until he's here. We should have a full board.
Yeah, oh yeah, I think so.
But I'm feeling like I personally would like to attend the planning board session
So
to
can
hear those
we-
comments.
Can we push out the 19th
Yeah.
to the 26th
Or the 27th.
or the 27th?
I'm willing to push to the 27th.
You can, yes.
I don't know what that does for other potential agenda items or
Right.
anything.
I should run downstairs just to make sure we don't have something, I
It's
don't think we have
Yeah.
any hearing.
sensitive.
I'll get it.
Just take a look, because it would, if we can solve that, I agree, it would be good
Yeah.
to. The other thing is, there were, in my travels, in talking about this topic with people, there were folks who felt very strongly they wanted to hear the school's point of view about marijuana and establishments. And obviously, we've talked about the police and public safety side of it. So I think the planning board, I don't know if that'll be encompassing there, but having a position, understanding what the school's perspective might be, is something that folks have asked me about.
And how at this juncture would we approach that?
I don't know if it's anything other than just to say that people on town meeting floor might be asking that question.
I get what you mean.
So I think it's just a
Right, give them a heads up that
Exactly, that
should be
there could,
prepared
it
to-
be prepared, that there may be a question that's coming forward on that. And certainly, police and public safety and fire should be
Right.
prepared as well.
Bonds. This is Jennifer Yaskell's thing asking for the bonds to be, can that be pushed out?
I believe it can. I'll have to double check, but I don't think a week will,
And then a formal acceptance of the hazard mitigation plan.
right, that can be pushed out a week too.
Other than that,
I'll just double check with her about the,
no, that was.
that's later.
after.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's doable. We can push it out.
yeah, I think we can. I think another week will be okay.
So you want to do Tuesday, the 27th? Does that work for you?
Tuesday, the 27th of March?
Ooh, calendar.
Well, I'm gonna send Tom a text. I know, I keep looking at it now.
No, it's not bad.
6:30?
Yeah.
Wide open.
Okay. Good. I think it's good that we get that information before.
Yeah, I mean, a report from the planning board on their position and comments might help.
Alrighty, so 6:30, Tuesday, March 27th will be our next meeting, and the March 19th meeting we will cancel. Right?
Would that be here again?
Huh?
Would that be here?
Yes. Well, in theory, we have to go and find out what the room schedule is like,
Right.
but probably here, hopefully here.
Might be a Concom meeting,
Well, we'd have to go over,
but we can always meet, we can
Yeah.
be, we might be able to switch. But
Yeah.
Again, I don't see it a long meeting in terms of,
Right.
a
No,
lot of topics, but
no, really only the one, right? Well, plus those things,
plus these two other, which are really just approvals.
really fast.
And I just sent Tom a message to make sure that that works for him.
The more time, the better, probably.
Well, I'm
Yeah, I
just
know.
saying from
Yeah.
his calendar perspective.
Yeah. Okay. And I don't think we had anything else that we needed to really discuss on this, except for Article 9. So, everybody comfortable with the wording of that as it stands?
So we did not add the usual or take any other action related thereto.
Because it's non-binding.
It's non-binding and we just tried to put a box around it.
Right. Should this question somewhere in, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I haven't read the whole thing. Should it, I know it'll be explained, but should it be in print that it's non-binding?
I think it should be in print somewhere.
We can certainly just put parenthetically non-binding.
Well, that's what I wonder for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. no,
It's
we
one
can.
thing that it's gonna be
Wanted to do
explained that way, but,
It uses the word request, but yes, it could be ambiguous, right?
right.
And somebody reading it could say, well,
Yes.
this is ridiculous.
Well, I just, for those that read it before they get there.
No,
Mhm.
we could, yeah,
Okay.
Is it implied that it's funding and delivery? In doing the delivery, or are you just kind of embedding that has to be paid for somehow and?
I
So
think,
you
I
talk
guess-
about efficiencies at the end. so
Right.
Efficiencies is a function of,
so you want to add the words funding and delivery?
oh, I'm just, I suppose.
I don't see there's a problem with adding
Doesn't
that.
hurt.
It's a little bit more clear, it's still
I
concise.
think may just, well, I'm sorry, what you said?
I think it's a little bit more clear and it's still concise.
Yeah, and I think may just illuminate really what we're talking about. We're not talking about just the
Mhm.
efficiency or the quality of service. We're talking about, we're talking about that plus,
no, that works.
So the two changes are to add the words funding and before delivery, and to add parenthetically that it is a non-binding resolution.
Yes.
I have a question,
I think it looks
not
good.
on that one. Yeah, but that's good.
Okay, so everybody's happy with Article 9 with those two changes?
Mhm.
All right, what was your question?
My question is, the copy that we have here on 4 is the one with the edits from our attorney. I'm assuming those will be not done as edits. Will the accept changes be completed? Or is this going out?
No,
this
it would
way?
actually show that because it's showing the voters
Okay,
then
that's
what
what I
is
wanted to know.
changed from the
Okay.
existing.
So purposely showing them what's been changed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we'll, in fact, I should say that up in that,
I was just thinking it might be helpful
to explain that
why there's.
additions are
additions.
underlined and
Right.
deletions are strike through.
Right, right. Okay, that was my question.
Okay. So,
So if we can just review.
Yep.
You're recommending approval, I believe, on all of them, except the 3 marijuana ones would be from the floor.
technically, we didn't say if we were recommending approval on Article 9. I don't think we need
It's
to make a
non-binding.
recommendation
There's no-
on that. I think we just skip a recommendation on that. Adele?
Oh. She made it.
Sorry.
A little messy down my way.
Just a bit.
Good. I thought there was another one that we were gonna do from town meeting floor.
Thank you very much.
The wetlands one?
Yes, I think did we talk about doing the wetlands one from town meeting floor too?
Yes, I think we did.
I think that one and the 3 marijuana ones were.
So on the Article 9, do you want to just be silent?
What's that?
On Article 9, are you saying to be silent, or are you going to make your recommendation at town meeting floor, or how do you want to handle that?
I guess technically, we need to make a recommendation. I mean, it seems strange to recommend something that is non-binding and asks us to.
We should
I'd almost,
recommend to support it, don't you think?
no, I think it's,
You're looking for their
We're
input.
looking for
trying to
an
get the sense
opinion.
of the community.
I mean, almost we'd say we take no position on this, and it's not accurate, really, and I prefer almost to leave it blank.
And then explain.
Right.
We put this on because we want your feedback, but we feel that this would be a viable,
Well, and considering
Prudent
it's
thing to do, or
non-binding, yeah.
Yeah.
Or say town meeting floor.
Because it's non-binding, I don't think there needs to be,
Any statement.
Any
Right.
statement.
well,
Leave it blank.
any statement on the actual warrant. I
Right.
think
Yeah.
it's a matter of either a selectman representative or a finance committee representative, or both,
Speak to it.
to speak on it.
Yeah,
Yeah, to
but-
speak to
but
it.
in the-
But I
in
don't
the-
think on the paper, because it's non-binding. This is territory we've never been in before,
Mhm.
so we should consider precedent here too. If we are, the first non-binding question, if we're not gonna make any recommendation on this one, in my mind, it moves forward with any other future non-binding questions.
I think it depends on the non-binding question. I mean, there have been non-binding questions before raised, I think, by, no, we have done,
No,
we've done.
this is new, and this
no,
took a
no.
little bit for Alan to kind of digest and feel like was an okay place to be doing it.
There was a non-binding resolution regarding parking some years ago.
I don't remember.
Hmm.
I mean, the whole point of us putting it on here is to open up a little bit of conversation to
Yeah.
get a sense of the group. So I'm not sure we should be leading them to anything with a recommendation.
I think we should not make a recommendation one way or the other and explain our thinking on town meeting floor.
Right.
Do you want to say that in a sentence in the booklet, or do you want to just leave it undefined?
I
And
think,
explain it, town meeting.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
sure.
I think part of the audience might be interested just the same to know the general thinking of the selectmen on the subject, even though it's non-binding. So that if you don't say anything,
Oh, would certainly say something to
Speak to it,
introduce it,
right.
but the question that we're sort of wrestling with right now is this pedantic question of, in the motions, in the Finance Committee report,
oh,
usually there's something which says, Board of Selectmen recommends approval, Finance Committee recommends approval.
yes, right.
And we're thinking about what to put in that set of parentheses, and
I
right
see,
now,
I
we're
see.
thinking,
I misunderstood. Thank you.
I don't think there's gonna be I mean, we can say that the Board of Selectmen will speak to this on town meeting floor, as opposed to making a recommendation on town meeting floor. How about that?
Or it doesn't need to say anything at all. It's,
You got a
I don't think,
preference?
I don't care. I
We're
think-
picking nits,
Yeah,
but that's
we're-
our job
yeah,
at
yeah,
this
it's
point.
okay, yeah,
Arthur?
I could see it either way.
Yeah.
Right, all right. Put in parentheses, Board of Selectmen will speak to this on town meeting floor.
I think in speaking, it's important to contextualize it, that this
right.
is something going on statewide. We have our own analysis of, what's best for the town financially. There are things happening in Cape Ann and Essex County along these lines. This is just stuff that's,
Yep.
This isn't something we cooked up.
Right.
And the question is, what is it, how does the town feel?
Right.
Yep.
Good.
So everything else got our approval in 16, 17, 18 are on town meeting floor. And 19, we recommend pass over, 20, recommend approval, and 21, town meeting floor.
Mhm.
That was pretty much it, right? Oh, well, no, we have time. Yeah, we're gonna come back to the. Hum?
Right, that's the one that recommended
Yes.
pass over.
Pass over.
No, finance committee.
Okay.
They did?
Were
Surprised
they aware
took
were
a
they aware of the
position.
conversations we'd had and the,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
They, in the end, it wasn't a long discussion, they decided to add it to the memorial flag account.
Right.
That would be their recommendation,
So they recommend approval, but adding it to the memorial flag account?
just to expand the Memorial Day account to include flags and flowers.
It's okay,
All right.
right,
That's fine.
fine.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Okay. Anything else we need to cover on this?
So then we just need a formal vote to approve as amended.
Second. So
Well, we need a
moved.
first.
So
Can we get a
moved.
Susan is moving the warrant as amended this evening.
I'll second it.
And any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
So I'll just need you to stop by in the next couple of days to sign.
Yep.
Okay, so then we're going to do the town administrator's report. And just a reminder, we'll be taking the Board of Selectmen minutes and pushing those into the next meeting packet. Okay.
So the various items I have here are fairly self-explanatory. We'll just need to decide on number one, whether or not you want to go into more detail concerning a pending lawsuit. I don't want to go into details in the open session, just because it is pending. But at some point, we'll need some guidance on if you want to go into executive session at your next meeting to talk about that. Similarly, number two, just sort of an update, some analysis that has been taking place over looking at a look back the last 20 years of expenditures. There's some helpful information there, and we will hopefully advance the discussion on town finances. Number three, the subgroup from the Finance Committee is working and advancing this idea of a cash basis for capital. It's looking fairly positive in terms of something that would be pretty doable for the majority of our capital needs. Certainly an outlier, whether it be a new sewer plant, would fall outside that. But in terms of the ongoing repairs to pipes, replacement of pipes, the equipment and vehicle needs, you could save up for a couple, 3 years to do a larger project, all on a cash basis. I think it is doable, and I think is attractive. By certainly the interest payments that we save, we can convert those or
Right.
divert those into actual project expense rather than paying the banks. So that, I think that could be to our advantage to do that. So we'll have some more details on that. And, looking a little further down the road, even though it seems like a long way off to say the 2030s, it's not that far off when we talk about some of these longer range capital plans. And by then, we will have fully funded our liabilities, our OPEB and our pension liabilities. And that'll free up a significant chunk of money every year, talking in the $1 million range. So that's a potential game changer as well in terms of helping us either with operating or capital. So it's not tomorrow, but there is some light at the end of a tunnel. Now, having said that, having gone through a challenging weekend of weather, and I'll perhaps add that as an addendum to the updates here. So, in the scheme of things, the crews did a great job, and we got through in pretty good shape. However, there's a couple homes in town that did not fare well. They received significant damage through trees coming down. One looks like it could be a total loss. And the other house should be repairable, but certainly a
Which one was
major
the loss?
damage. The one on Hidden. So that's no fun for anybody to go through. That's a big deal. In terms of power outage, that was obviously the biggest impact in terms of impacting the most people. My understanding was a little before meeting time, we were down to 2 homes that were without power, and they said that should be by this evening. They should have power back on. So again, for those folks who are out of power those many days, that felt long. Luckily, it was not frigid temperatures outside, so that was the plus side there. Biggest damage that we know about is out on Boardman Avenue. Portion of the seawall did collapse, and water certainly flooded the road and did a lot of damage to the road. This evening, they were able to put in a temporary repair to that seawall, and it held through the afternoon high tide, which was a good test. Yesterday's temporary repair did not hold through the tide through the night, so they regrouped and did a more substantial barrier. The road itself, they were able to patch up and make it passable this afternoon. So that's
So it's
at least, so it's open.
Open for,
Yes. So the impact to the rotunda at Tux Point, we're still assessing. I am fearful that it has more damage than we first realized.
and the walkway too.
Yeah.
Correct.
Leading out to it, yeah.
Correct. It appears that a lot of that underneath the walkway has been severely undermined.
But the new seawall held up there.
The new seawall held up very well.
Yeah.
So that's the good news there. And the Chowder House under construction did not suffer any damage, so that was a good sign. They did a very good job buttoning that up in preparation for the storm.
Is there any,
Oh, it came up over the granite walkway
Yeah,
and over the top of the seawall. washed out some of the gravel fill behind the seawall,
For the charter house?
a little ways.
Towards the, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It filled the yacht club parking lot.
Yeah.
It was what?
It filled the yacht club parking lot.
Oh, it did.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is there an insurance coverage on the rotunda in any way?
No, they do not cover.
However, FEMA may be in
Correct.
play.
Yeah,
So-
those numbers will get added into FEMA's.
Right, so they announced today, start putting your estimates together.
Right.
So DPW will be working on that. We will have an engineer out tomorrow morning, actually, while the tide is still out, to try to crawl underneath the rotunda and try to give a more complete assessment.
Do we have a historical designation for that building?
I believe we do.
I think that's another avenue.
So yes, that would be another avenue. So all in the early stages in terms of what sort of federal disaster declaration might occur. I would say there's a high potential of this one making those thresholds in terms of statewide.
Now, if there were to be any more damage to locales on this next one, Wednesday, Thursday, can they be packaged in? Or
They
do
have
they
done
become
that in the
separate?
past. They have packaged back-to-back storms.
And they've also sometimes not.
Right.
Well, right,
Right.
so we'll have to wait and see on that.
So, yes. So you mentioned the upcoming weather. We're keeping an eye on things.
The tide's supposed to be a lot lower, right?
Yes, we're not supposed to have the astronomical high tides that we did, though they are talking about pretty high seas again.
Yeah, in the wind, they're
Yes.
picking up
Still
on
an
the wind
insane amount of
predictions.
energy out there that
Yes.
has not dissipated.
Right. There's,
Yeah, I mean, the tides may be lower, but they're still high. You know, when I got home, Tenney's Creek was full again, and
yeah, no, so today, Ocean Street,
right,
at White Beach, it
Came over.
got all covered up again
yeah,
after they just finished clearing it all up. It all came, not all, but
right,
some of it came back.
yeah.
I randomly ran into Maury Creighton at Halibut Point on Saturday, and we both were staring at waves coming in to
Mm.
that whole Plum Island there, and they were literally 50 feet.
Oh, yeah, this
Really?
has
They were
been,
huge.
Oh, my
waves.
gosh.
Like,
Wow.
easily 40, I would argue 50. I mean, these
Wow.
things were gigantic.
Mm.
It was actually scary to watch. I had my kids with me. I was like, we were like way up in the air, way above it all, but it was just like,
Still scary to
it
see.
was, I've never seen anything like that.
Mm.
Wow.
Those were big waves.
Yeah. So, obviously, White and Black Beach, the Ocean Street there was covered with about 5 feet of debris. Most of that is now cleaned up. There was some damage, some undermining of the sidewalk and seawall on Black Beach. So, we'll be
But
looking
back to
at that.
Boardman, is the, at what point does the MBTA come in to cooperate?
Well,
Because
we're gonna ask that question.
Boardman is a front for their tracks.
Correct. So they basically abut the road there.
Yeah.
So
They have
we,
a vested interest in
they
that
do have a
seawall.
vested interest in that seawall. So we were gonna reach out to them and let them know that we're very concerned and
Yeah.
that they should be concerned.
We don't want their poles, but we do want their.
Yes. So we will let them know about that and see what they might be able to participate.
And also the other crossing, I think they should look at the culvert on Boardman on
By
the
the causeway there.
west side,
Yeah,
because that was completely underwater. And so the integrity of that road, although that's a private road,
right.
so that's actually not the town's responsibility.
Luckily, there's not the wave action there, a lot of
Yeah,
water.
But the tide sucks in and out.
No, I
So
understand.
the tidal force is actually pretty strong.
Well, that's true, that's
Um,
true.
And there, the MBTA is dependent on the integrity of that, part of that road. So that's a private road, not the town problem, but in the interests of the residents, we might package, or at least having one conversation about the seawall, which is the town's interest, but then also say, you should consider the rail crossing, because that probably has been affected.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, it was
So
the
that's a-
depth of the surge that was really startling. I mean, I finally, this is yesterday, not even the worst of it. I drove up to Magnolia, up to so you could look down over the rocks out to the ocean.
Mm.
I never saw, it was like a pyramid. Pyramid just coming along like this, like this, like this, like this, and then not breaking at all, just keeping them going, and then another pyramid coming behind it. It was really remarkable.
Mm.
And the damage that is done, undermining everything along the way, has been, I think, really terrific. But that's part of what we're going to have in the future, too, so.
Yeah, Magnolia Beach or Gray Beach, whichever term you like. So that seawall, which normally looks like a 3-foot-high seawall, is now an 8-foot-high seawall.
Yeah.
It just took away all of the sand, and it went right down to the footings of that seawall. So it's a big, tall wall right now. I mean, a lot of that sand will come back eventually, but it just shows the power.
Oh, the strength of the ocean.
It might be worth, like sometimes the overly cautious side of me comes out, but it might be worse than signage on the north end of Singing Beach. A lot of kids play up on those rocks.
Yes.
And that tide was crashing halfway up to the houses at Singing Beach at that end, multiple times, at least three tide cycles. And those rocks have all shifted, so if there's little kids playing up on there,
That's a good point.
some of those very large rocks are probably very unstable. So I don't know if we could put some,
Yeah, we could put some danger signs up.
like, down on the beach,
Yeah.
and then maybe at the entrance to the beach, just, as a brief way as possible, just talking about the shifting.
Stay off the rocks.
Yeah, and that whole rock, climbing on the rocks issue was a year-long challenge.
Yeah.
But even more so right now, if we even remotely think there's been a shift
Mm.
to put a,
And we're positive that
Whatever keeps us clean.
the circle, because the water was coming straight up to that drain pipe.
Right.
And we're confident that nothing undermined that, weakened. I mean, it looks fine, but I'm just wondering.
Right, so again, the engineer will be making the
Take a look
rounds
at that.
tomorrow, just to double check on things.
Yep.
So we will check that,
Yeah.
so. So,
Do we have a-
Always-
And now you're just triggering, I promise to stop.
no, no,
but
it's fine.
Do we have a historical designation for the bathhouse? Because I think eventually that's gonna get, and so it'd be good to actually have a designation on it
Right.
in
I
advance.
I don't know the answer to that. I can find out.
We might make a move to put one on it.
So obviously, it's too early to tell what kind of financial issues we're having here. You know, whether or not we wanted to do something at this town meeting. You know,
we're not gonna have enough information.
Right, that's the problem.
We have the fall town meeting, it's
Right.
just gonna be a question of funding the projects that need to get taken care of before the seasons begin,
Right, so I just,
It's gonna be our
I
issue.
worry about,
Will we
I
have
worry about
room
the
to do
rotunda.
that?
right? Right?
Yeah, because that could be, well, that's easily tens of thousands.
Yep.
So, and that that can't wait, so that has to be done. Well,
So that means a special town meeting.
or we use the reserves and hope and pray,
Right.
but
Yeah.
that's,
Right.
And then replenish.
That was just
At the fall.
Yeah.
less than 5 years, 10 years ago, when was that reinforced?
So I've been here 5, and prior to my arrival, so I don't know.
It was the last 10 years, isn't it?
Yeah, that walkway isn't that old, though. The walkway's been done in segments, and wasn't that CPC money?
A lot of it was, right?
That granite walkway was a lot of
Beautiful.
CPC money in the last, since you've been here, hasn't it?
No, that
No,
was
that was
prior to my
prior to-
arrival,
wow.
yeah. So it must have been
Yeah, just
maybe
before
6
that.
or 8 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
so,
CPC's been 12 years.
yeah, yeah.
so I guess the question would be whether or not we want to consider adding to the reserves now.
we got a pretty healthy reserve, don't we?
We do,
Not that we can transfer without, I mean, there's 170 in the reserves.
I agree.
for
I agree with you.
starting July 1. So right now, we have a balance of
Oh,
about
I see what you're saying.
63,000. So if you wanted to do something between now and July 1st,
Which we
We have to
would.
work with a 63,000.
It's
we've
not
got
gonna-
63,000. And plus whatever money we can shift from
Right.
an unexpended
That's not gonna
account. You know, so I don't know if you want to supplement the current reserve.
Yeah.
That would be a new article.
If an emergency arises between you finalizing and voting the article and the time frame, and something comes up, we want to add something, you can't really do that.
Well,
No.
And Alan would not allow that.
technically it is allowed.
But
It
that's
is,
what
it
I'm
is,
saying.
technically it's legal.
Mhm.
A lot of moderators will not allow additions.
He would, I'm almost certain he would not allow it.
Well, I think if it was an emergency of some sort, he would at least consider it. I don't know. I can't imagine.
You know, so, again, whether or not you want to propose that the reserve be increased as part of your recommended budget, or do you, and would Alan allow, an increase from the floor
From the floor, from town meeting.
for the reserve fund?
I suspect that he would allow an increase from the floor from a resident. I would be skeptical. Well, would he?
I would just ask him, you know, say,
Right,
We've
but
got-
This has to go.
Yeah, but it has to be done tonight.
This warrant has to get out there on the street,
tonight, tomorrow.
the end of the week.
Yeah, so,
Oh, the end of the week.
but if we just asked him tomorrow and say, we've got the situation that we're getting assessed right now with Tux. We've got 63. If we needed to, if it went exceeding that, we needed to kind of cover our bases. It's something we could do from town meeting floor. We can just ask
Between
him.
White Beach, Tux Point, and Boardman, I mean, you're looking at guaranteed money to spend, effectively, right? I mean, those are.
Those are the three big, you know, the white and black, I'm not anticipating big dollars, unless we find a surprise that
But
I'm
it's
not
gonna be
aware
at
of.
least 10, 20 grand, right? When you start bringing in equipment,
Yes,
moving rocks,
right,
paving,
right,
reinforcing.
right. So a lot of that can be covered under snow and ice. It's,
Okay.
it's, and we do have the ability to
Deficit spend.
to deficit spend that, and we always anticipate 100,000 for that. We haven't come close to using this year's allocation for that. But March is young,
Yeah, I
so,
was gonna say, March is not looking good.
no, it's
So,
not.
this is just a brainstorm idea, but do you create a new, environmental emergency fund, that is meant for these purposes, so that it's actually dedicated? Because I have stuff, I mean, it's just.
Right, so that's,
the stuff
that,
just
you could do
continues.
that, and that would be a new article, or a new account. So,
The only reason why I mention that, I think in light of a lot of the things that we've seen lately, it was a signal that the town is acutely aware of the reality of where we are and where we're continuing to go with.
yeah, so
Farms.
I agree with you. It would make sense to have basically another reserve fund dedicated to disaster recovery.
Mm,
You don't have to put a ton of money into it, but
Not a ton, but if you had 100,000 in it, that would,
Yeah.
it would help a lot.
or maybe you combine 25 into it as a smaller amount, and you platoon with the snow and
Right.
fund, you know?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Chairman of the Master Planning Committee, doesn't all of this weather, which is going to continue, suggest that we need to look at our zoning bylaws very carefully and with a whole different concept about what it is to have zoning at perilous parts that are thus so threatened, because Ocean Street should never have been built on. I mean, the 4 houses that are on Ocean Street right there are just, I mean, they're sitting ducks. It doesn't matter what they do. You couldn't put up a high enough seawall even if you wanted to. So at some point, I believe down in New Jersey that FEMA told people, and I think they're telling them at Plum Island too, that they will allow one rebuild, and after that, out of there. You either sell it or you leave it or you do something. But they're not going to renew any insurance for. I think that's what we're facing in places as vulnerable as those. And that marsh, of course, is a very important marsh for all of the land around the hills and everything. That marsh is a sponge. And we can't, we need to help it continue, because we have 2 streams coming into it already from the inland. So there's a lot to think about in terms of how we look at zoning bylaws now, not just as a piece of property, but really whether it's a viable area to have a structure. Thank you.
Yes.
So,
So if we were to add an additional article to try to capture some level of funding for disaster recovery repairs, Tux Point and whatever else comes up, how would that article, where would the money go? I'm sorry, I'm like having a brain lapse here.
So the easiest way would be to just do a supplement to this year's reserve fund.
Reserve, okay.
That's the cleanest problem. That's probably the cleanest way to do that.
What is the way I didn't hear about?
To just do a supplement to this year's reserve fund,
when you say this year,
FY '18.
okay. So that's to fill in for now, the money that we're going to be recovering, or the damages that we're going to deal with in between now and July.
Right.
Would all the costs, how would such contracts for repair be written? Would they be money up front so they would hit before June? Or would the cash be distributed over half up front, half at time of completion? Because a lot of these projects aren't gonna finish until probably the summer anyways.
Well, so once you have a contract that encumbers the money,
Does it encumber the money to the year in which the project was inception of the project or completion of the project?
so it's a carryover into the next year. So if you encumber the money now with a contract, then that money would stay available into the next fiscal year.
But pulled from the previous year's budget?
Yes.
Because the fiscal year turns.
Yes, yes.
So our hang-up right now is what we think the moderator would allow discussion on and not.
Well,
Well, if you put a new article in,
then it's definitely going to be.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
The hangup would be, for example, we have $170,000 in the reserves for, that's the recommendation for
Yeah.
this year. Increasing that number is not something that he would really
there's no mechanism to increase this year's, to supplement this year's reserve.
yeah.
You would need to amend what you just approved by adding a new article.
There's no question, but that would have to be in the
Correct.
warrant.
Now, whether or not you
Town meeting
could
floor.
boost up, so in Article 4, there's already a number for a reserve. I think you could make an argument that you could increase that if you would allow that as an amendment.
Guess he would,
So that's what we need to find out.
yeah. But that won't cover us for what we need to do between now and July.
Correct. Correct.
That would cover us in case we thought, oh, next year might have similar problems.
Right, or, you know,
Well, the work
a
doesn't start until
continuation
after
of
the
what
first
we
of
need to
July.
do from this storm.
Due for a hurricane.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, because I mean, it's logical, we know there's gonna be reconstruction needs. It's gonna be a matter of what, the priority, where goes first. And
Right,
based on
and-
the season that we're entering,
Right. And we
Tux
don't-
Point is gonna be closer to the top on the list. Anything that needs to be done at Tux Point to make it
So-
usable.
That's my biggest worry, is
Right.
Tux Point, just in
Right.
terms of people will absolutely want to make sure that that's usable.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a little bit of inherent in, you rent the Chowder House, there's access to the rotunda.
So-
Access to the
The
floats and all the dinghies,
floats
and it's
and the-
just,
Exactly.
It's just iconic.
Well,
Yes.
yeah, that's the thing, the expectation by Memorial Day is it's open and ready to go. That's our dilemma.
Right.
So can I make a suggestion? If we look at all the possible alternatives within this year's budget, of what we have in reserves, what we have in snow and ice, and what we know that we can move around to come up with a number of what we think we could use if we had to. Understanding full well the engineer will be in there tomorrow to say, and give us a sense of what needs to be accomplished. To somehow get to a target, if, for lack of a better term, of what we think it will be and whether we can afford to do within this budget. And then talk to Alan and say, this is what we're looking at. What's the best mechanism for us to deal with this right now? Can we add should we add another line in the warrant to supplement something? How would we do that?
so to preserve your options, you would add a new article now
That's
to supplement this year's reserve fund at X additional dollars. You can always pass over it.
Right,
If we decide that things aren't as bad.
Right.
And we do have the ability in the last 2 months of the year to move funds from one account to another. And we traditionally have dollars available. And I would expect us to have, most likely enough to do what is necessary unless we find out some real surprises. If those piers
right.
are cracked,
Yeah,
You have to
then that's a
replace
different
the whole
story.
thing.
it's a whole bigger issue,
Yes.
right.
So I think you just hedge our bets that way. It would be good to know what we have, what we could move, what the possible cost could be, and how we would need to frame the article up and just, if we decide to do that tomorrow, we could still make it for the article, right?
Well, except we
Well-
need to get together and vote.
You would have to do a special meeting to vote, or you could approve it tonight and.
Right,
and-
Subject to need.
Subject
Yeah.
to the wording and.
right,
I would be fine with that.
yeah. And I think approving something tonight, and the amount.
So it'd be
that we're
very
talking
similar
about-
to your article that we did for water and sewer supplement. So, numbers 10 and 11. So I would put a new number 12 and then renumber,
Yeah,
and basically say to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer available funds, and I would say we would transfer from fund balance.
Yeah.
X dollars, is it a $50,000 transfer?
Voting number that we're talking about.
To the FY 18 reserve fund.
Funds, yeah.
So that's what it would say.
I would, this is just a suggestion, I think if we're gonna go through all of these efforts, I would capitalize on the optics and the opportunity to make a statement as a town about the fact that I think if you slip it in the general fund, I get it, and it's probably the cleanest thing to do. I would say in this particular case, given what, I think a lot of residents are gonna be looking to the town, what is the town doing about these things? And I think having it in a dedicated fund for this type of thing, 'cause these storms are gonna continue to happen. I think it's an opportunity for the town to actually say that we're evolving, like, we're coming to understand, and we know that we need to have this money. And it needs to be available to address these things. But-
Yearly
yearly.
versus,
Now, if I'm just trying to do this cleanly, I slip it in the general fund and be done with it, because it's available and we can do it, but I just throw this out as a question, is this an opportunity to also,
Educate.
evolve the town and kind of, I think, reposition the town relative to a lot of these questions about what are towns in general, not just Manchester, doing about being prepared.
So you could do a
Yeah.
two-step, similar to what we've done in the past, which is you can approve the easy way to put it into the general fund, so we have it immediately if we need it for 18, and say, and also to approve, and perhaps not fund necessarily right yet, an emergency disaster recovery fund going forward, so it would be a two-step, if we wanted to do something like that.
We wouldn't do that. We wouldn't put that in the warrant this time round.
Well, but what Arthur's saying is that we would, so at least that's what I'm understanding you to
Yeah,
say.
if we don't, I won't be upset.
No, but it's
I just think
a question.
I think I've been following a lot of the social media chatter, and there's a lot of questions, there's a couple other topics we can talk about later that aren't tied to the storms, but there's a lot of questions and curiosity and trying to find out what's the town doing. And I think in many regards, the general fund can service all this, and I don't think I think we're fine. But, is this a situation where the town has to be better positioned to deal with these things going forward? And I think unequivocally, yes.
Right.
And do we do kind of gestures like we're gonna reflect that by creating a fund, but actually, because we're not in denial in any way, this is gonna continue. So,
I guess so I guess I would support that, but I think trying to do that in this warrant this time around, that's too rushed. I mean, I
See,
think we should
it'd be
try and do
good
that
to-
maybe in the fall or.
To have the comment, though, at
Yeah.
the
it
town
opens up
Right,
the,
right,
con-
right,
it
right.
starts the
It
conversation.
starts the conversation to say, looking forward, we're asking for this tonight because of that.
We're anticipating.
We're
right.
anticipating these things to continue. Look forward to a future article, which will set a fund up. I think it directionally, it pushes us in that place, and it's a little late at this point to kind of bring it
That's fair.
in. But I think that would be a good way to do it.
So this, I'll do a little more homework, but this could well be a type of capital reserve fund.
Well, that's what I wondered.
It's a
right.
disaster recovery capital fund.
Mm.
and where does FEMA funding go when we get it? Does it go into the general fund?
No, it goes into a special grant account, basically.
And could that grant account be attached to that capital fund? Like, not directly linked, because they're separate, but you create a family of
Right,
funds.
a
that
yes.
basically.
Yes,
Which would be a smart way to do it.
Right.
Because then it would be all kind of a single account.
Right.
I like the idea, but I think you're right, it's too complicated at this
Yeah,
point to throw
that's
it
fine.
in. But I think if directionally we can say, this is where we want to go with it, that makes sense.
All right, so I think we are all on the same page about inserting an Article 12 to augment FY18 reserves, right? Okay. And you're going to need an amount to patch in there tonight. And 50,000, or do you think higher? Or, I mean, this is all a wag at this point, just enough to ensure that we have enough pad, or to buy us time to let some things,
So I guess 100 sounds a little high, 50 to me is probably a little low, but knowing that we could grab some unspent funds, but if we had 75 and I can grab another 75 if we need it, I guess I'm trying not to pick a number out of the air, but
lean to 75.
I would lean to 75.
Yeah. We can always reduce it. It's easy to reduce. It's hard to increase. Or impossible.
Yeah,
You go higher.
I would. I'd say 100.
You say up to?
No.
Nope.
I mean,
Well,
the
whatever the
messaging.
number is we put in, we can amend it.
Yeah, oh, yeah, we
Yes,
can lower it,
and-
no
and-
problem.
And if it's not used, it just flows back to the fund balance where it came from.
Right.
The issue is, in between now and when we get to town meeting floor, people are gonna get this, they're gonna read it, and they're gonna
Yeah.
go, what?
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I don't, the time is relatively narrow. There's time to put out, articles about it.
I mean, we can put right in the warrant.
I think in marketing the change, you talk about these three locations. The reality is that I would probably budget it to really address the rotunda,
yeah,
which could be up to 100,000.
well, that's right.
And I would use the other funds that you were talking about to do the road work on
Right.
White Beach and Boardman. And get the MBTA to pay for the rest.
And then get it all back from FEMA.
Yeah, and
Right,
this
you
is,
do that, yeah.
well, and the conversation tonight is providing that there aren't any other little issues that pop up that
Yeah,
DPW hasn't come across yet, and we haven't thought of yet, and, you know, I think
Yeah.
we're still cleaning up from,
I was certainly
The
nervous
storm.
about the dam here.
right,
There was a lot of water against
Yeah,
that
there
dam.
was. yeah.
I'm
I mean,
okay
I-
with 100, if that's the right number at this point.
Did nothing happen with the sewage?
I mean, they took in a ton of salt water, but, he's slowly building back the good bugs. So,
Yeah, I mean, you know, Kenny's Creek, that can become an issue if we keep getting these, the end of Bennett and Bridge Street. That water was high, and there's a culvert there, and there's, you know, I mean, we know of the places that we got direct hits on, so we need to address those, but I think a little bit longer term is looking at everything, now that it's happened twice. You know, these storms are only supposed to be every 10 or 12 years, and we've had them twice in a month and a
100-year
half.
storms in 100 days.
Well, that's, yeah, so you know, the bigger picture becomes looking at everything again.
So, it sounds like we're leaning towards $100,000, and there was perhaps some appetite for putting something explanatory in the warrant, and I'm going to suggest that we put something very, very terse, because we tried to avoid doing that, and we tried to make those comments in our explanation on town meeting floor. However, we could add a clause at the end said for the purpose of repairing
storm-related damage.
storm-related damage.
You could even be more specific, say, you know, March 2018 storm-related damage.
Yeah, I would say that.
No, I wouldn't say that,
No?
because,
Yeah, I'd keep your, just in
Yeah.
case we get, I mean, if we get
Oh, in
another.
case we get
Oh,
another
yes.
one next week.
Or the damage might be triggered by something earlier, and, yeah, fair enough. fair
Yeah,
enough,
okay.
so,
Would you cite the examples of the three locations, just as examples?
not
the-
here,
not
not
as-
here. I
On
think
town
we would do that on town
On the
meeting
floor,
floor.
yeah.
So the phrasing thus far is, I believe, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds $100,000 to augment the FY18 reserve account
Mhm.
for the purpose of repairing winter storm damage or take any other action relative thereto. Is that correct? And that's phrased correctly, the reserve account?
Yes.
Now, do we need to vote to recommend that article?
So I'll vote to amend the warrant
Yes.
Yes.
to add Article 12.
New Article
New
12.
Article 12 is stated by Eli.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and then we need to, I think we make our motion on town meeting floor when we know more about the numbers.
Sure, sure.
And we just now FinCom needs to know they'll have to,
Yeah.
Surprise.
yeah.
And they'll do the same, they'll make their recommendation on town meeting
Right,
floor as
right.
well.
See,
Good.
Gail, they thought they were done.
And shoot, I thought we were done too. I thought, there was a brief moment where I thought we were gonna get out of here in 30 minutes.
Yes.
5 to
Nope.
7.
All right, but that was actually reasonable and worthwhile
No,
doing.
it's very
Oh,
good.
yeah.
It would have been very unfortunate if we got to the other end and realized an extra half an hour would have made it easier. All right, anything else?
I'm good.
What's the status of the dog park? I mean, of the, not the dog park, the skateboard park?
So the insurance company has basically shut it down. There are
Okay, Tom said he's
hazards
good
with
for
the various joints.
Yeah.
So the DPW will remove the various furniture, is that what you called it?
That's what Tom Keogh called it.
Yeah,
The various,
I listened to him today.
you know, features and will be removed, and there'll be just an open asphalt area that people can then skate on, but there won't be any obstacles.
Until Parks and Rec makes a plan what to do about that.
And there was a blip in the cricket, which I have not read yet, from Parks and Rec. I think it was about a whole bunch of projects.
Right.
Was that skateboard park included in?
It was on,
Yes.
it was the front page of the Cricket.
No, I just didn't, I saw the fact that Parks and Rec had information, but I didn't read the whole thing to know if the skateboard park. We need to figure out a way to continue to get that information out to people.
And how does that get, I'm
Somehow.
not familiar with, do they decide and that's it, what happens to that space, or does it go to, do they make a recommendation?
They make recommendations. As soon as it costs money, they'll make recommendations, and then I think we're the final arbiters on that.
I'm not sure we're gonna have a ton of money to do anything elaborate with it.
No?
And I slipped and said dog park, I actually would ask them to look at, should that actually become a dog park?
Yeah, I just, there is swirling concern and maybe some misinformation about the skateboard park right now. So the more ways we can get that information out to people other than the cricket, does,
Monthly newsletter.
yeah, maybe there should be a blip in the monthly newsletter. Parks and Rec has a Facebook page,
Yes.
maybe a blip out there, and I know they utilize,
Constant contact.
the constant contact for their email blasts. That would reach a whole lot of people with a respectfully, smartly worded blip about what's happened, why it's happened, what's going to happen, and the decision that drove that.
That's fair. I'm responding more to chatter I've been hearing about Singing Beach.
Yeah, that too. Yep.
I think there's a constituency that's furious about the condition of Singing Beach during the months that dogs are allowed on it.
Yep.
Oh.
And then the question is, when you don't allow them on the beach, where do the dogs go?
Where do they go? Yeah.
So I would put that, I'm not saying that the skateboard park should become a dog
No,
park.
no, but it's the
should be
skateboard
something
park,
they should-
because it's been closed, shut down, there's swirling.
Yeah.
Why did it
I don't
happen so
wanna contribute.
fast? What,
I don't want to contribute to the swirling.
that's why I just think the more venues we can get it out besides the article in the Cricket would be helpful,
It's fair.
would help Parks and
Yep.
Rec in general.
Tom had also asked if we would put a letter in the Cricket thanking DPW, fire,
Yeah.
chief, and police, et
Yes.
cetera, for their efforts in the storm.
Maybe we should wait another week.
Well, so I was gonna ask, do you
Maybe
want,
more
For their
comprehensive one.
continued, for their help and their
Well, you can
continued.
guarantee they're gonna be working on Wednesday and Thursdays.
Well, that's what I mean.
But something having in the paper on Friday
Yeah,
would actually
yeah,
be.
I think it's a great idea, I just didn't know if we wanted to wait another week so that we had more to thank them for.
I think we got a lot right
We got
now.
enough, do we?
So,
When I
for
drove
this
over
and
here, the
continue.
amount of activity happening on Harbor Street was impressive.
so you want town administrator write in his normal column, or you want me to write a letter? What do you want?
I think it should come from the board.
It should come from the board.
All right.
Yeah.
I will write something and get it out to them
Tomorrow morning.
before tomorrow morning.
If you just give them a heads up, it's coming.
Yeah.
You can usually.
Yep.
Usually get to noonish.
Yeah.
Right.
Anything else anybody wants to bring up? Get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Get a second? Oh, come on, second.